Hi, I'm Ashley, and I grew up in North Fresno in a little bubble of suburban life. I always knew there were parts of Fresno I really wasn't supposed to go to, mostly because my parents always told me that, and that's kind of what I believed. There were also these expectations put on me, like I would attend college and get a career that would allow me to support my family, and ideally I would end up in a neighborhood where I would have the typical 4-bed, 3.5 bath townhouse with the neighborhood watch association that fines you if you keep your trash cans out too long, stuff like that. That was kind of what my expectations were, or at least what people put on me. I don't know if I necessarily had expectations at like 8 years old. But this perspective actually changed drastically when I decided to kind of forego all that and attend Fresno City College. I became exposed to ideas that had a really profound effect on me and kind of challenged the ideas I'd grown up with through my friendships with people and talking to teachers and joining clubs and different things like that. I got exposed to ideas about things like systematic racism, America's oppressive history, things like cutting taxes wouldn't fix everything wrong with the world, which is pretty much what I was raised to believe. As I opened up to these new ideas, I realized that the life I'd imagined or the expectations on me were actually kind of boring and would just allow me to keep ignoring the injustices I saw. Similar to most college students, I kind of use that to decide, no, I want to change the world instead. I want to do something else. So this kind of newfound calling led me to join the Pink House, which is an urban leadership ministry program in downtown Fresno. It kind of introduced me to ideas about social action and really encouraged me to get in the city and participate in what was going on. So I decided to join this advocacy campaign called No More Slumlords because I wanted to make a direct impact on my city, and I thought advocacy would be the most direct avenue to do that. So No More Slumlords at the time, this was about 2 years ago, they were working to pass a routine housing ordinance in Fresno, or routine housing inspection ordinance, I should say, also known as RHIA. So I began this internship like fully engaged and fully ready to do all this hard work and make a big change on the community. And while I did anticipate some pushback, I kind of anticipated it would for the most part be from my family, but I was not actually prepared for the rejection I would receive just going around and canvassing. We would regularly spend, my partner and I, on this internship 5 hours a few times each week, just aimlessly walking the streets, going through apartment complexes in areas that I wasn't really supposed to go to. According to what I'd been raised to believe in, we'd knock on these doors and try our best to talk to people who, for the most part, didn't understand what we were doing or saw our clipboards and kind of ran away from us. We got watched by managers, hit on by some strange men. That was actually pretty common. We also told to go away a lot. So it was kind of a discouraging experience. And a few months went by until I finally just worked up the nerve to ask one of our leaders, Sergio, for a new assignment. While I still really enjoyed what we were doing as the whole organization, I didn't actually enjoy the canvassing, going around and talking to people, because it was just a lot of rejection. For every one person we talked to, we got the door slammed on us like 30 times. I wanted to change the world, and the constant rejection was hurting the ego that I'd been nursing this whole time. So soon after that conversation with Sergio, his wife, ironically named Ashley, spoke with me. She argued that, well, canvassing was hard. It wasn't a reason to give up on it. Her exact words were, let me make sure I get this right, "Everything you do for a cause has the potential to make a difference. Canvassing for hours, meeting with politicians, even putting stamps on a mailer has the potential to make a big impact because it's not about you. It's about the people you want to serve. You don't know if your canvassing is going to plant that small seed that someone will later cultivate. You can't know that when you're doing it. You just have to keep doing it because otherwise that small seed won't ever cultivate." So this was incredibly impactful to hear, partially because that kind of affirmation in no matter what you're doing is always good, but it was the first time somebody had really challenged that notion that, oh, I want to change the world. there's a lot of different ways you can do that, and some ways don't show up as easily as others. So a few weeks later, ironically, Fresno passed the routine housing inspection ordinance policy in a really close 4-3 vote that I could talk about for hours probably. But after this victory, a few individuals asked if I was proud of all the work I had done. But after Ashley's talk with me, I almost felt a little insulted hearing that question because, while I did work for the campaign and spend a ton of hours canvassing and doing things, I was only in for like the small closing stretch of it. I wasn't in at all for starting the organization or getting everything worked out and figuring out what we're gonna do and talking to politicians and doing these steps and getting it even voted on. By the time I had joined, it was already on the calendar to be voted, and we were just trying to get people to show up. It was a successful campaign because of all the individuals who had sowed the seed before I'd even tried to cultivate it, before I even knew I could cultivate anything. So campaigns like that don't just happen in a few months. It takes time, relationships, perseverance, and commitment to lead a successful campaign. You can't just go in and decide at the last minute you want to change the world, because there's a lot more work to it than that. So when we decide we want to change the world, the first thing we have to do is ask ourselves if the change is for our ego, right? Is for just us wanting to feel better, or is it a desire to serve other people? Our change becomes toxic when we make it for our ego. What's best for our ego isn't always what's best for the people we want to help. See asset-based community development. I mean, canvassing was abusive towards my ego. It hurt it every time I faced this rejection and just feeling like I wasn't doing anything and I was just wasting my time. But it was what's best for the campaign and ultimately the people I was trying to serve. So in the words of Ashley, a successful campaign isn't one that's all about me. It's one that's all about the people that I'm trying to serve, or even just the people. Until we realize that, we're just going to be college students who want to change the world but can't seem to figure out how. So I guess my challenge for everyone, or just the whole point of this, is to look at yourself and figure out the reason why you're doing what you're doing. Because if you don't have a strong reason, if it's just for your ego or for whatever, you might be able to make some kind of change, but it's not going to be lasting and it's not going to be what's good for the people. So that's my story of self, us, and now.